Good Voch Raboisai. Leilu Nishmas Chaim Oren. Leib. Last night, Thursday, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, I was coming out of 7 Mile Market, Baltimore, and Anon Ymous was outside with the large MDY side next to the table upon which were Masech the Soida, the truth for those that sign up, get others to begin learning the Daf. We had a nice schmooze, the photo together. Nachum encouraged me to send you my story towards the end of Ksubis. I decided to start learning Daf Yomi with Nidarim once again, searching for which Shurim and Magidi Shurim to learn with. I came across MDY. It was then that I signed up for the Gemara, and since that time, I've been learning with you, occasionally at 1.5 or 2 speed. I'm very looking forward to beginning Saita. May you, with MDY, go Michael Choyel. Good Shabbos, Eli Stefansky, what? Shkoyach. Penny corn. Dear Elliot, first of all, thank you for an amazing shir. Regarding what you said today, listen to this. This is Gevaldik. I love this email because of the email right after it. Regarding what you said today, that Skver Hasidim take only 4 haircuts a year, I want to correct you that it's 5 haircuts a year. And you miss one on Shabbos Nachamu. Watching you from a bunker in New Square. Just kidding. He'd get in big trouble if they ever found out. Thanks again. So if you are in New Square and you know penny corn, don't tell the Aryeh that penny corn does the daf. Thanks again. Yeskver Chosid Talmud since Beitza Daf Beis. Now here comes the next one from Yankel. He's smarter. He doesn't say his last name. They actually take 6 times a year. Rosh Hashanah, Parshas Mikes, Parshas Shkolim, Pesach, Shavuos, Shabbos Nachamu. This is coming from a Skver Chosid. So 2 Skver Chasidim are arguing. So I have the right to say it's 4. I say it's 4. Let them fight it out. Good Voch Harav. I'd like to try and recruit by the Shtibel I daven in. I'm Petach Tikva. I'd like to know how I can get one of those famous street posters with Rebbe's picture. No? Speak to Tomer. But somebody here told me, oh, Shalom Aleichem. What's your name, Tzaddik? We only met a few times.
Where did we meet?
In England, in New York. Where? Wow, in Baltimore. Okay, Shalom Aleichem from Baltimore. Here we have some emails from Baltimore. Tiskel Mitzvah, thank you for changing my life. Talmud since Megillah. My son just told me that he wants with his own money to put, there's an ad on the back of the Mishpacha. The back was beautiful. Nissan Gans did that ad. I like it a lot. And he wants to put it on a status. The guy has a few thousand people. He wants to pay for it. He asked me how to get it. I don't know how to get that. How do you do these things? It's on one of these groups. Okay, fine. P.S. On a flight out to New York last month, I was able to take advantage of the almost wasted flight hours and catch up on 6 daf. Hashtag time well spent. Thanks everyone for the inspiration. Avi Yusupov. John Berg, Rabbi said, check this out. I've confirmed that Mivaseret, YSMZ, will be inviting the guys to join this year for Saita. Guys that join and complete will get a meat-tastic siyum from a shir member and a habit for life. Avi Berg, he does these meat things. So if you're Mivaseret, you'll get a habit for life and a beautiful siyum. You may want to invite the guys out and directly Zoom or the like, get them pumped. This is a great way to keep the guys' fire burning strong during Ben Azmanim and beyond. My brother Mordechai, the famous Mordechai Berg, who lives right here next to the Beis Medrash, and was on Meaningful People the other day, is my partner in crime on this. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns or ideas to grow. Have an amazing Shabbos. Avi, he's also the Manal over there, I think, Mordechai, something like that, at least the Manal. And here is Nachum Aretz, finally, a picture, thanks to 7 Mile Market for allowing me to set up in front of the store. Recruited, in 7 Mile Market, you recruit 7 people. Thanks, Nachum. That's the way to do it. You go out for the big bucks, 7 people. Here's one of the people he recruited. And Rabbi Yisai, the Koilel is sponsored by Anon Ymous from Lakewood. The Koilel of the month, Reuven Klein and honor my daughter Aliza becoming Kal Tzvi Chaim NATO from Toronto. The Masech is sponsored by Maaser. The Masech is sponsored Leilu Nishmas Chaim Yosef by Anon Ymous. Paras HaChodesh, 5 of them. Anon Ymous from Flatbush with continued bracha, mazel, and clarity. Landy Family, LeAliyat Nishmat Chaim Oren, Yeshעי. Leilu Nishmas Chaim Elefant. Chayim and Ya'akov Shmuel Zechariah Levrachah by his Westside friends. Parnas HaChodesh, Leilu Nishmas Zechariah ben Moshe. Parnas HaChodesh, another sad one. The MDY Family. Leilu Nishmas Chaim Oren Zechariah Levrachah ben ybl'c Chaim Eliyahu. Chaim Oren, sometimes known as Charlie, was Elliot Mattingly's young son, just turned 1 and was nifter Thursday afternoon in Boston. The Neshama should have an Aliyah, the Mishpacha should have an Achama. The art of the month for a complete refuah for Chaim Tzvi ben Leah. All right, so now I want to just call up Uncle Phil himself.
Right here.
How did that happen? The magic.
The magic of television. All right, Eli. Every Masechta you show us what you've got, and that includes finding a different mascot. I could be a Baldwin brother, but I'm not. A hint might be, I am for sure not a big shot. If you know me well, I truly have no ego. I am also not fast. I am really pretty slow. I don't relax much, and I suffer from being shy. I hide my happiness. I wish I knew why. And like you, I want people to like me, so I smile a lot, and my sister is named Sally. You can use me to bring more people to learn the Daf Gemara, because you are an incredible Magid Shir and constant Magid Torah. They say I am hopeless, but with you, nothing is that way. For doing the Daf is truly what makes my day. So happy birthday, Eli. Please take me home from your new special friend, Chaim Chom. Okay. Now we'll find it.
Yeah, still my birthday. Still celebrating.
Okay.
Hareini Nazir Kesar Roishi. I'm not a Baldwin.
And the back.
Stefansky 8.
Number 8. That's the daf that you introduced him. And look at the bottom. Look
There's the MDY
yarmulke. My wife
yarmulke.
put a yarmulke on. And look at the bottom. What is he wearing?
Oh. Zechariah.
Sota might be a little more exciting.
So everybody, let's continue on with the program. Cut. Boys, here we go. We're holding Daf Samach Aleph on top. 3 lines down. Shetiglachas Hanega. Boy Romi Barcham. Boy Rava. So you see this chart over here. It looks familiar. We're not going into that sugya. I don't want to scare anybody. So we had 4 shavings. So we're going to go in the case that he's a definite Nazir, Tameh, and a definite Mitzayra. So if he's a Tameh, for the Tzaras, he has to take 2 haircuts. For the Tumah, he takes a 3rd haircut. And for the Tahara, he takes a 4th haircut. So the Gemara asks a simple question. Every time that he takes the 4 haircuts, is he the mitzvah? There's a special mitzvah in shaving, or is it just to get rid of the hair? This is nasha. I found it. They actually still sell it. It's a hair remover cream. So if there's a mitzvah, so the mitzvah would be with a razor, not with cream. And if it's only to remove the hair of Tumah, afilu sachei noshanami, even if you smear it with cream, it would work. Now, we're learning that the problem is the 3rd tiglachas, because Mitzayra needs a razor and the Tahara needs a razor. You hear? But not the Tumah. Perhaps tiglachas Tumah doesn't need a razor. Amarava, Tashma, Umegalech, Arba tiglachiyos. Since it says that he shaves 4 times meaning with a razor, and if the 3rd tiglachas of Tumah is just to remove the hair, then why do you need 4 razors? 3 razors are enough. The 4th one, the tiglachas Tumah, doesn't require a razor. The fact that we say that you need to use a razor 4 times, it means even the 3rd shave, which is for the Tumah, also requires a razor. So you see, since you need a razor for that, it's for the mitzvah, Shema Mina, Hadran alach shnei nazirim, Hadran alach shnei nazirim, Hadran alach shnei nazirim. This is one of the most interesting names in Chas for a perek coming up. Why? Because the machloek is what the name is. And if you look in your Gemara, you have one name. If you look in my Gemara, I have another name. You look in your friend's Gemara next to you, you have a different name. There's only two options here. A lot of Gemaras have the name Kusim. Hakusim ein lahem nazirus. And therefore, the name of the perek is Hakusim ein lahem. My Gemara says Hanachrim ein lahem nazirus. And therefore, the perek, the entire perek is called something else than other people's perek. Ha-Nachrim. I guess there's it's because of the censor. I'm not exactly sure, but that's what's going on here. So Hanachrim ein lahem nazirus. A non-Jew is not in the parsha of Nazirus. He cannot accept upon himself Nazirus. He could do Nazirus all he wants. He could grow his hair. He cannot drink wine, but he's not in the parsha. So when he decides to drink wine and take a haircut, it's fine. A woman and a slave, Eved Knani, Yeshlem Nazirus, they do have Nazirus. You know, throughout the whole Torah, slaves, we learn Eved from an Isha, La min Isha, so they have Nazirus. So if somebody works for you, he's your Eved, and he accepts upon himself Nazirus, you would think maybe since he's your Eved, he has to ask you permission or whatever. No. He could accept upon himself Nazirus. How is he going to get Korbanos? That's his problem. Maybe when he's free, then he could buy his own Korbanos. Right now he doesn't have any funds to buy them, but he could become a Nazir. In our Mishnah, the Mishnah describes where women have more of a chumrah than avadim, and the following Mishnah is going to tell us where avadim have more of a chumrah than women. A master could force a slave to drink wine, even though he's a Nazir. He says, you have to drink right now, because it's kinyan kaspa. But he cannot force his wife once he accepts upon. He could be made for it, but if he agrees that his wife should be a Nazira, then he can't force his wife. You can't force your wife to do anything. Says the Gemara, Ktani. So first of all, before we go into the Gemara, Shalom Aleichem. What's your name? I know you've been here a bunch of times. What's your name? Jeff Rosenberg. That's right, and that's your brother. Is he here?
Back there somewhere.
Time out. I missed the email here. Hold on. Huh? Jeff Rosenberg. 1 minute. I have to go back here. I thought. It's very strange. Oh! I guess I'll read it tomorrow. Elimelech Goldberg's email here. It's not for tonight, right? I can read it tomorrow also. You going to be here tomorrow? All right, because we're in the middle of learning. I don't know how you skipped it. Maybe I skipped a bunch. Interesting. Yep, skipped it by mistake. All right, sorry. Tomorrow and today is the same. It's the same day, no? What? Yeah, it's the same. We'll do it tomorrow, Beis Hashem. All right. So, if you read in the Mishnah, Akusim Eilem Nazirus, this is a Kusi, this is Yoshi's Kusi. And if you do, Hanachrim Eilem Nazirus, here's some of the Nachrim. This is the one I met in Vail on the left, and this somebody else sent us in back in the day. Okay. Says the Gemara, Ktani, Hanachrim Ein Lohem Nazirus V'nanimili. How do we know that Nazirus doesn't apply to non-Jew? The Tanu Rabbanon Daber B'nei Yisrael V'loi La'ovdei Kechavim. So take a look over here at the pasuk. A very important pasuk for today. Daber B'nei Yisrael. And at the end of the pasuk it says Neder Nazir LaHazir LaShem. So Nazirus is B'nei Yisrael. So we have over here, if you look at the pasuk, because it's important, because we're going to have a very, very similar pasuk somewhere else. It has the same wording. First it says Daber B'nei Yisrael, and then it says Ish. So we have a miut, B'nai Yisrael, only Jews. And it says Ish. Ish is more of a open term. It could be anybody. Daber B'nai Yisrael v'lo lo'ev gechavim. V'amarta aleim. Now, if you look at the pasuk again, Daber, speak to B'nai Yisrael. V'amarta, speak. So Daber and V'amarta in purple are the same word. So there's a philus in the lashon, double lashon. L'rabbis eso avadim. If I have to invite somebody into the picture, it's going to be an Eved, because the Eved is already semi-Jewish, he's Chayv Mitzvahs like a woman, so we're going to say it's him, not a non-Jew. Ask the Gemara a basic question. We know throughout Shas that Avodim and Nashim have the same halachas. Lama likra, why do I need a special v'amarta aleim from the word v'amarta to be marba Eved? If a woman can become a Nazira, so can an Eved. So I don't need a special pasuk. Omar Rava, Shani Hachad Omar Kra, Lesor Isur al Nafshoy. So it says in the pasuk. No, I missed it. Okay, hold on. We'll do this trick. Lesser Isal Nafsha. Here, it's not in order. Boom. Lesser Isal Nafsha. Ish Kidar Neder Lashem. We were very familiar with this pasuk in the Darim. So it says in the pasuk the word al nafshay, on his soul, on his nefesh. It says Rava. B'mi shenafshay knu yeloi. Somebody that has his own soul. Yotza evet shenafshay knu yeloi. And we're talking about Pesach coming up, and just to think about how people used to live, people were avodim back in the day. And even worse, if a guy took a trip, let's say, on the ocean, trying to get from Israel to America on a boat, come the pirates, they capture people, and they make you avodim, finish. They sell you on the market. You can end up going from a normal person with successful person, being an eved, tied down to a boat, row a boat, your entire life. You have to go like this. If not, you get killed. And that's how they lived. So, I mean, they might still have it today in some places. But to be a neved, to be a nothing, just you 100% for somebody else. You don't have a nefesh. All you do, imagine, a person is literally, they used to take 50, 60, 100 people, tie them with chains to their seat, and they had to go like this the whole day. That's a person that has a soul, he has a nefesh, doesn't have anything. You see by the pasuk, you have to have a nefesh. In order to make a neder, you have to have a nefesh. So I think that it applies also, we know that Nadarim and Nazirus are similar. A lot of things that you have by one, you have by the other. Nazirus is a type of a neder, so I would think that a slave cannot be a Nazir. Even though a slave, a Eved, is always compared to a Isha, and if an Isha can have Nazirus, so can an Eved. But here it's different, because there's a special meat in the pasuk al nafshoy. You have to have a nefesh, and an Eved doesn't have a nefesh. Just to be, I don't want anybody writing me emails that kind of slave that was taken on the water and he was forced to be a slave. He probably does have an. I'm just saying. We're talking about an Eved Knani that you bought legally under and the Torah says he's cutting to you like a behemoth. It's different. Omar. So we learned, going back to the original pasuk of Daber b'nei Yisrael, that when medayik that it has to be a Jew and not a non-Jew. So anytime it says b'nei Yisrael, it comes to exclude a non-Jew. So now we go back to. I like this. You don't see my screen here. Gewaldig. Here. Is that normal? Avrami, that when I do that and I see all the slides, they don't see it? They never did. Okay, Gewaldig. So, very similar pasuk, right? This is talking about Erechin. We're going to talk about Erechin in a second. This is Daber b'nei Yisrael v'mataleim ish. Again, you have the b'nei Yisrael, not a non-Jew, and ish to include what? Oh. No. Berkach HaNefashos. What are you saying? It does. Berkach HaNefashos Hashem. Right. It's so similar you thought it's the same pasuk. But it's not. Berkach HaNefashos. So let's talk about Erechin for a second. Here's the famous chart. Yossi redid it for the book. Basically, this is the chart that we've been using for 4 years. He just made it a lot nicer. New colors, new graph. But it's the same thing. So, oh my gosh, what a surprise. Yoshi did this now. From the time I left my house till now, who knows what else he's doing behind the scenes. Nice. Okay, I hear. There's this I did, I don't know, four years ago. But he put his guy in there. Oh my gosh, that's Peretz Chaim Levin. Wow, amazing. Givaldi, okay. Shechiyanu Kiyimanu, Peretz Chaim Levin made it in before Nachman Seltzer. Reb Nachman. No, he's working on Reb Nachman for a while. But he never made it in. Okay, so beautiful. I love it. Yishkoyach Yoshi, because I was sitting there because I looked closer and I saw some of the watermarks from the illegal, I took an illegal picture somewhere. See, he knocked it out. Okay. The Mayrich and the Nerach, beautiful. Mayrich means he points at another person, a human being, and he says, Erkoy alai. You see that guy in the bed? Erkoy, whatever his erech is, whatever his worth is, but it's not what you could sell him in a slave market. Whatever the Torah says. Now let's take a look at this guy. How old is this guy, Rabbi Yisai? How old is he? Berach. How old is he? He's 14 years old. Okay, so we go to the chart. He's a Zachar, so he's in the blue, and he's 14 years old. Chodesh Ad. 5 to 20. So he's worth 20. You have to give 20, right? He's in the green one. Top green, 20. If he was 21 years old, you have to give 50. Women, 30. But when they get older, above 60, you see how they bridge that gap? Because the older woman is worth more. Big kids. Okay, we get into a different time. But in other, I know, but they bridge that gap, the value. Before it was X percentage. Now it's much. Okay. So let's go. We just have to remember these words. There's a Mayrich and a Nerach. Over here we're talking about two Jews. Peretz Chaim Levin is the Mayrich. He's saying, I want to give the Beis HaMikdash the amount of money that the guy in the bed is worth. How much? 20. Okay, 20. Could a guy do either one of those two things? Could he be the one saying, I want to give that amount? And can he be the one that's the Nerach? Could he be the subject of the Erechin? Could he be the one sleeping? He didn't do anything. Could Peretz Chaim Levin point at a non-Jew and say, I want to give his Erech to the Beis HaMikdash? No, not a machlek. Well, maybe. As the Gemara in that passage we saw it says Daber b'nei Yisrael. V'gabi yerching d'chsiv Daber b'nei Yisrael v'tanya b'nei Yisrael ma'arichin v'enoiv d'gechavim ma'arichim. So over here it says you can only be Peretz Chaim Levin. You can't be a non-Jew. Michael Jordan can't say Erkoy alai. He could give the Beis HaMikdash whatever he wants. Again. But the halachas of Erechin don't apply to him. You can't force him to give it. You can't do anything. Maybe they shouldn't be the subject. The nerach, the guy in the bed. Ish. So let's go back to the pasuk just for a second. Again. So here's the pasuk. And again, we have a miyot. Bnei Yisrael means only Jews, only. And then we have ish to include. In addition to Jews, you can do something. So it's not a full addition because the Bnei Yisrael takes out non-Jews, but it's saying, but only partially. The non-Jew cannot be a marich, but he could be a nerach, he could be a subject. But akol parim, you see that they are part of it. So this is today's sugya basically. By Erechin, a non-Jew is part of Erechin. He's in the parish of Erechin. Not completely, 50%. He could be a subject. He can't be the one, what's the word? How do you say the guy doing it in English? The subject is a decent word. He's the object, the subject. And who's the one, Peretz Chaim Levin? How do you call Peretz Chaim Levin? The assessor? The objector. Not the right word. Okay, fine. You come up with a word. We'll get 6 emails tomorrow. The assessor. Akoponim, by Nazirus, we're saying what? Rabbi Yisrael, by Nazirus we said, since it says Bnei Yisrael, a guy is not in the parasha. It's not like, he can't be a full Nazir, but he could be a partial Nazir. He can't drink wine, but he could shave. We're not saying that. He's zero. When it comes to Nazirus, zero. When it comes to Erechin, it's not a zero. We take the word ish, and we let him be part of the parasha. Why is it? So that's today's sugya. We're going to try different ways until finally we get to Amud Aleph Amud Beis. Even Samach Beis Amud Aleph on the top lines over there, and we'll see the answer. Shani Hacha says the Gemara, Nazir is different. La'aviv uli imoy loy yitama. So over here you see the pasuk la'aviv uli imoy loy yitama ki nezer le'kava roisha. We're talking about a Nazir here. A Nazir should not go to his parents' funeral. Loy yitama. So Gemara darshins b'mish yesh liyav. A Yid has a father. A non-Jew, halachically, his father is not his father. In what way? So Gemara tries out. Usually, what? A non-Jew doesn't have a father. Lamai, Yerusha, that he cannot inherit his father. It's not true. A non-Jew inherits his father al pi Torah. In other words, if we have a whole country, Eretz Yisrael is ours, 100%, and then the law is based on the Torah. And a guy comes to the Beis and he says, "I want to inherit my father." What would we tell him? We say, "Go ahead, inherit your father." What about a goya? Shenema ki Yerusha le'Esav nasatis har seir. Esav gets a Yerusha. What about a nekeva, a woman, goya? Huh? They're Jewish, very Jewish. So the answer is l'chayr yes, but the Minchas Chinuch holds that a woman and a man goyim that come to Bezdin, they'll get 50-50. They don't have the halachas Yerusha of a Jew that only the boys yarshin. They get 50-50. Others argue on him. Elo. So when the Torah says by Nazirus of a V'ima, it cannot mean that a guy doesn't yarshin, that's why he's not in the parasha. It has to be something else. He doesn't have a father and a mother for a different thing. For Hilchais Kibud Aveim. The halachas of Kibud Aveim. So I want to talk a little bit about Kibud Aveim. It's Matzah Shabbos. A few maises here, a few halachas that are very, very negay, I think. One very interesting thing that I found today is that somebody here, Kibud Aveim. I think you're going to walk away from this shocked. So this happens a lot. It happened in my family, and I'm familiar with this. A couple got divorced, and as a good frum couple, when they get divorced, they fight tooth and nail that the kids shouldn't see each other. They go to Bezdin, they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's normal by us, unfortunately. Why? Nobody knows. So somebody went to the stipler and asked the stipler, should I get involved? Should I try to convince the boys were convinced by their mother not to speak to the father? The father's a Rosh Marusha, the regular. There's a whole list of things that every single guy that gets divorced did. Drugs, etc., etc. The whole list. Terrible people. So you're not allowed to talk to the father. That's how it goes every single time. So should I get involved? So the Stipler says it's a chiyuv to get involved because it's a mitzvah deraisa for the kids to speak to the father. It's also for the kids from a divorced family not to speak to the father. You have to convince them to be mekayim the mitzvah. Okay, that's thing number one. Things mamish negea l'maisa because it happens a lot, unfortunately. Another very important halacha. This is a halacha that when you are mechabed your father and mother, and it costs you money, like they want you to do something. They want you to make a cup of tea. So you don't have to pay for the tea. They have to pay for the tea. You have to make it, but they have to pay for it. So a guy, his father wanted him to come visit. So he went to the brisker Rav and said, "L'chayr I'm potter." Why? Because it involves me taking a train, and a train costs money. So it has to be on my father's dime. Very good. The brisker Rav said something incredible. And once he says it, you say he's 100% right. He said, you're right. He has to pay for your train. And he doesn't want to pay for the train. He doesn't have the money to pay for the train. So guess what? Walk. Your chiyuv is to be mechabed av. You want to make it easier for yourself to take a train? Great. You don't want to make it easy? So walk. How long does it take to walk from here to Yerushalayim? In a day you can walk. Less than a day it takes. Yeshiva Bochum to do it all the time. 6-8 hours. Marathon, whatever. Walk. It's an unbelievable thing. It's just What we have to do for Kibbutz Avim, I'm telling you right now, I think a lot of you are going to walk out of here tonight thinking about Kibbutz Avim a little differently. Another Maaser. A true story that I saw a while ago in Reb Zilberstein's Sefer. There was a guy that had a non-religious brother, and the father died. So the brother said, let's cremate the father. And it happens Yom V'Layla. I even see now ads in the Mishpacha, like anti-cremation funds, different things. So the brother said, absolutely not. They had a big fight. I want to bury him. I want to cremate him. So the brother said, Dad left $10 million. I get 5, you get 5. I'm willing to give you $1 million that you don't cremate him. So the brother's a big chacham. He said, no, 5. I want your entire Yerusha. The guy ended up giving him his entire Yerusha, not to cremate his father. And Reb Zilberstein says that he might have been chayv al pi halacha to do that, because Yerusha only comes after the hoitzais of the kvura. Another Maaser about Kibbutz Avim. What you have to do, you have to be invater everything in kachava. I wish there was a great end of the story that the guy took the money, and as he was walking out of the bank, he got hit by a truck, and then he yarshed him back. That's not what happened. And finally, I'll tell you the story. Now it's like he got killed. Finally, the famous story about Rabbi Tarfon. But I think the end of the Gemara over there is a very, very important piece. The Gemara tells us that Rabbi Tarfon was an expert in Kibbutz Avim. And every time his mother wanted to get into bed, he would get on the floor, she would step on his back as a stepping stool, and she'd get into bed. One day she said, I'm feeling better, I want to go outside, I want to take a little spatzir. She said, great, let's go. So they're walking around in the backyard, and her shoe broke. She said, well, what do I do? It's Shabbos, I can't put it back together. So he put his hands on the floor, she stepped on his hand, took another step, she kept on stepping. One day she came to the Chacham and she said, you have to daven on Tarfon B'ni. He's very sick. And he goes above and beyond in Kibbutz Avim. He does too much. So Chacham said, what do you mean he does too much? She said, he gets on the floor, I step on him, and then that time, my shoe broke, he put his feet out, I stepped on his feet, on his hands. So Chacham told her that even if he did 1,000 times more than that, that's only half of what the Torah requires you to do. That lashon is so powerful. Even if he did 1,000 times more, none of us have ever done anything similar. Well, maybe I'll talk for myself. Even if you do 1,000 times more, it's not even half of what you mechayiv to do. He's not such a big mechabadav. So, anyways, we take from here one piece. Kibbutz Avim. Pick up the phone. Make that visit. If you have to walk all the way to New York, walk. Whatever it is, be mechabed. They say that the Chazon Ish said one last thing. The Chazon Ish always said that he was zoichet to be the Chazon Ish. They asked him if he because of his Kibbutz Avim, and there's a lot of stories of him running to visit his mother. Somebody told him that your mother mentioned that she didn't see you a few days. He started running like a kid, running. And the Chazon Ish was a very sick person, etc. Okay, fine. Zok the Gemara. Miksiv kabed avicha gabi Nazir. You're telling me that the words in the pasuk la'aviv u'li'imay by a Nazir is referring to Kibbutz Avim. Doesn't even mention Kibbutz Avim by Nazir. How do you know? Why would you say that la'aviv is referring to Kibbutz Avim? Ela makro la'aviv u'li'imay lo yitama. So I'll tell you the pshat. It says that you shouldn't become tamid to your parents. B'mi sheyesh lo tuma. So this is also big yisod of Samach Aleph Amud Beis, sponsored Hatzlacha by Leib. Ben Aliza Simcha Sheina Masha, Aliza Simcha Sheina Masha Bad Bracha, and Hatzlacha Ben Magid Cheer. The members of the HBA Group and their families. I don't know if everybody realized this, because we're talking about when a guy dies, he has tumah. We're saying even maybe tumas oil, the whole thing with the planes going over different cemeteries. Great. But the guy himself, when he's alive, think about it. What about a horse? If a horse touches a dead body, a Jewish body, how much tumah does the horse have? What is he? A Rishon, a Sheni, a Avatumah? What is he? He's zero. Zero. A guy also. A guy who deals with the dead, lifts up a dead yid, nothing. Zero. No tumah. So since it says in the pasuk lo yitama, the father and mother should become tamei. So Mela, since a guy doesn't have tumah, he's not in the parish of kinei zelikav harosh. He's not in the parish of the zeros. And how do we know? it says by the Tumah, a person who's tummy goes into the Beis Hamikdash, v'ish asher yitma v'lo yischata. If he goes into the Beis Hamikdash b'tumah, v'nichrasa nefesh ha'im yidoich ha'kahol, he gets kares, he'll be wiped out from the nation. B'mishesh le'kahol. How do you say call in English? Congregation. A Jew has a congregation, and the guy is not part of that congregation. B'mishesh le'kahol yotzeh zeh she'ein lo kahol. And Memela, that's how I see that a guy doesn't have tumah. Memai. As the Gemara, how do I see it from that pasuk? Dilma karesu d'lei mechayim. Maybe the Torah is saying that the only person that could get kares is someone that has a congregation. A Jew is punished more because he's part of the congregation. But a guy could become tamei. Maybe the pasuk is only telling you about the einish. He doesn't get a punishment of kares, but he is in the parish of tumah. Amakra visa Torah tamei. Right, the famous Pella in the Torah. Someone who's tar takes the azav, takes the azav, dips it into the paraduma water and sprinkles the guy that's tamei. The guy that's tamei becomes tar. The guy that was tar and sprinkled becomes tamei. But it says that you have to be a tar and sprinkle the tamei guy. Kol sheyesh li tahara yesh li tuma, v'chol she'ein lo tahara ein lo tuma. Since a guy doesn't have tahara, says Taisvis, even if he went into a mikvah, he doesn't become tar, so he doesn't have tumah. Veima taru d'lei havile tumah havile. Maybe he does. He doesn't have tahara, but he has tumah. He could become tamei. But didn't we just say visa tar al tamei? We have a pasuk that says that in order to become tamei, you have to become tar. The Gemara says no. Maybe you don't learn the pasuk like that. Why not? The pshat is simple. Because in Yuma, we take this exact pasuk, we learn it for something else. So maybe I don't have a pasuk to learn it. That's the Gemara's kasha. The Vehiza Torah Tame, I already use it for something else in Yuma. Says the Gemara, maybe the pshat is a guy cannot become tar. You go into the mikvah, nothing will happen. But if he touches that person, he's tummy for the rest of his life. Okay, so I have another pasuk. Same idea, another pasuk. Fine. Ravacha by Yaakov Omar, Shani Yocha, Domakro, Bisnachalta Moisim Levnechem Achrechem. See if we have it. So here's a pasuk that's talking about if a person has a slave, the slave goes Birusha to his children. Says the Gemara, by Naziros, I want to, I want to make a nafkamina between Naziros and Erechin. You ask me, it says Bnei Yisrael by Naziros, and that excludes Goyim from Naziros. A Goy cannot become a Nazir. Oh, it says Bnei Yisrael by Erechin, and we don't exclude them. It says the Gemara like this. So what do we try to say? We try to say that the reason why by Nazirus he's not a part of it is because a guy doesn't have Yerusha. But we said a guy does have Yerusha. Oh, so now the Gemara says we tighten it up a bit. A guy doesn't have Yerusha by Visnachalta Moisam. A guy doesn't give his slaves to his children. And Memela we have like this. Look at the pasuk. Just now it's understood. By Nazir it says la'aviv uli'imay lo yitama. You have to have a father and a mother in order to become a Nazir. And a guy doesn't have a father and a mother for what? For Yerusha. Oh, but he is Yerush? No. Yerusha's avodim he doesn't have. So again, since by Nazir it says la'aviv uli'imay, he has to have a father and a mother. There's one halacha in a father and a mother that a guy is not part of it. He doesn't get his parents' slaves. When his parents die, he doesn't get them. And Memela, he's not in the pasuk of la'aviv uli'imay lo yitama. He's not in the pasuk of Naziros. If he could inherit the parents' slaves, then he could become a Nazir. Ask the Gemara the obvious question. We said in our Mishnah that a woman and an Eved can become Nazirim. Wait a minute. A woman could inherit her parents' slaves, but an Eved cannot inherit slaves. Huh? She could. No, I'm saying she could inherit slaves. She's in the parish of that. I just threw it. Forget the woman. Okay. Eved cannot inherit slaves. And Mamela, you just told me anybody that can inherit a slave, in other words, a non-Jew, he's not in the parish of Naziros. How come Eved is in the parish of Naziros? Okay. So I want to show you this chart for a second. This is what the Gemara is going to be doing now. A very, very simple thing until the bottom of the Amud. Rava says that the word Bnei Yisrael that we say by a Nazir, Bnei Yisrael, only the son of a Yid could become a Nazir and not a guy. And you're asking me, but why is it different than Erechin? By Erechin, it also says the same exact word, Bnei Yisrael. And we say no, that a guy is in the parish of Erechin. What? He could be a Nerach. He could be the one on the bed. Great. Says Rav, I'll tell you why. I'm going to give you every option to learn the word Bnei Yisrael, and it's not going to work. And because it's not going to work, the only option I'm going to be left with is Bnei Yisrael and not a goy ban Nazirus. A goy is not in the parish of Nazirus. Why? What are the options? I'll tell you, the word Bnei Yisrael says that a Jew brings korbanos when he's a Nazir, and a goy not. That can't be. That's not the pshat in the word. Okay, so maybe Bnei Yisrael means that a Jew, only Jews could make their sons Nazirim. I could look at my kid and say, you're a Nazir. But a guy can't. And that's Bnei Yisrael. Well, that's also not a good pshat. These are all halacha l'moshme Sinai, so I can't say that that's what's pshat in the pasuk. Bnei Yisrael, a Jew could be a Nazir la'olam and not a Yid. Maybe that's, if I want to be like Erechin, I want to say Erechin, I'm going to do Bnei Yisrael for part of the Erechin, and the word Ish is going to say, but I'm going to add something. He is part of Erechin, not completely, a little bit, he's going to Nerach. So here also, he's part of Nazirus. I'll say, says Rav, I'll roll with you. Bnei Yisrael means that we're going to exclude Goyim from one thing, but we're going to allow them in the parish of Nazirus. We're going to say, a guy could be a Nazir, but he can't make his son a Nazir. A guy could be a Nazir, but he can't be a Nazir forever. A guy could be a Nazir, but he cannot use his father's funds that his father set aside for Nazirus. Maybe that's the pshat. And Mamela will be just like Erechin. We learn a little bit from Bnei Yisrael and we learn a little bit from Ish. Bnei Yisrael takes away something from the guy, Ish puts it back in, so he's going to be a semi-Nazir, not a complete Nazir like a Jew. And since all these 4 attempts don't work, we're back to the original attempt on top. The Rava says Bnei Yisrael must come to say, to exclude a guy 100% from Nazirus, unlike Erechin, which it doesn't exclude a guy 100%. Now let's see it inside. That's all what happened there. So the reason why I made a chart is because the first time I learned this Gemara, I was confused about what's happening. I understood the words, I didn't understand where the Gemara is going with it. So I decided I'll put it in a chart and make it easier for everybody. Elo Amarava. Here he comes. Oh, by Erechin, I could split it and say, you know, a guy is not 100% in the parish of Erechin, but he's a little bit. Maybe he shouldn't be at all. The word ish is a riboy. Bnei Yisrael is a miut, right? Bnei Yisrael comes to exclude a guy completely. Ish puts him back in for a little bit, for 50%. He's a nerach, not a mayrach. But hacha, what are you going to do by us, by Nazirus? Bnei Yisrael, Nazir moving carbon, Nazir moving carbon. Perhaps you're going to say that the Bnei Yisrael says that a guy is slightly in the parasha, but not completely. That what? That a Jew brings korbanos and a guy doesn't bring korbanos. And I would say, oh, maybe he shouldn't be a Nazir at all. He should be a little bit of a Nazir. He just shouldn't bring korbanos. Amri, that's not a good pshat. Probably Naziros. Here you have the pasuk Ishish, and it says all the way at the end of the pasuk LeAliyat. That what? That a guy has the right to donate oilos. He can bring korbanos, but he cannot bring a Naziros carbon. Oh, you can turn on from there. Okay, we keep on going. Oh, hello. Shkoyach. Probably Nazirus. Okay, another shot. I'm proving, Rav is saying, I'm proving to you that the word Bnei Yisrael comes to exclude a guy from Nazirus 100%. Why? Because maybe you'll say no. Bnei Yisrael, Nazir, Nazirus, Olam. Maybe it comes to exclude a guy that he could be a Nazir, but not Leilam, not forever. Maybe no, maybe there shouldn't be a Nazir at all. I'm going to bring him back with the word Ish. I'll bring him back. So Bnei Yisrael is going to come to exclude Leilam. Ish says he could be a Nazir. And we have this teres 3 times. Miksiv, no, sorry, this we don't have. Miksiv Nazir Olam. Who's talking about a Nazir Olam here? We're saying Nazir. Nazir means any type of Nazir. Where did you get in your to say that we're talking about a Nazir Olam? So okay, another pshat. So we actually have an older piece of art here that a son cannot use his father's korbanos that his father put aside for Nazirus, but he could use the money. Here goes. So if the father dies, he goes bye-bye. What happens? Nothing? Oh, he gets to use the money and he gets to use a carbon that's a balmum. But a regular carbon, a whole carbon, a tamim, he cannot use. Oh, so maybe I would say that that's the pshat in the pasuk. That a Jew is in this parsha, that a Jew could use his father's money for Nazirus, but not a guy. Maybe that's what? Oh, what's the case before? Oh, I did. I skipped it. Sorry. Oh, I got excited to show that. Now I can show it again. Gewaldig. Maybe the pshat is that a Jew has the ability to make his son a Nazir, but a guy doesn't. So again, Bnei Yisrael comes to exclude a guy for what? For one thing, that he can't make his son a Nazir. Maybe to come to exclude him completely? No. The word ish is a riboy, brings him back into the parsha. So he's in the parsha, but not in the parsha. He's a little semi in the parsha. We have to take away one thing from him. Before we try to take away, I don't remember anymore, and now we're trying to take away the fact that the father can make his son a Nazir. The halacha, listen to this, very, very simple. There's a halacha l'Moshe Messina that says that a father can make his son a Nazir. Says the Gemara, it doesn't make any sense to say that a pasuk comes to exclude a guy from that halacha l'Moshe Messina. You don't mix a pasuk with halacha l'Moshe Messina. Halacha Messina is over here. A pasuk is not going to come talk about halacha l'Moshe Messina. That doesn't work. Says the Gemara, oh, check out this chart, Rabbi Yisai. Brand new art from Yoshi. So, okay, we'll start from here. He cannot use the father's, the Jew could use the father's money. The guy cannot. Maybe that's what the Bnei Yisrael comes to say. But maybe Bnei Yisrael comes to exclude a guy completely from the zeros. So that's the end of the story. That what? I tried to explain the words Bnei Yisrael and Ish in 4 different ways. It didn't work. Rabbi Yochanan said at least twice that it's halacha l'Moshe Messina. It's impossible that the Torah came to exclude things from halacha l'Moshe Messina. And whatever the other reason. So my 4 attempts didn't work. What am I left with? One other option. The Bnei Yisrael comes to exclude a guy 100% from Nazirus. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful week. See you tomorrow morning, Be'ez Hashem. Shalom Aleichem to all the guests.